Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about the book that I highly recommend. I'm not really much of a reader. I do enjoy it, but it is very time consuming and my attention span is really short. So even if I'm really into a book, it's like I can't. Like my mom, of course, she's retired, she's not working. My mom could read like a 300-page book in just one day because that's like all the time that she has in her hand. She doesn't really do anything else. I don't know. She seems to have a short attention span too. I wonder how much my dad thinks that maybe she doesn't really pay attention to everything that she's reading. I tend to, because I'm a type of person. I never got diagnosed with ADD, but I'm starting to wonder if I might be because like I could read a paragraph and sometimes like what the hell did I just read? Let me read that over again. Sometimes it'll take me multiple or a sentence, sometimes it'll take me multiple times reading it over to actually get it. And same thing with movies, like sometimes it'll take me like 2 or 3 times to see a movie before I get everything. So this book, it's by Tatum O'Neal, who is the daughter of Ryan O'Neal and Joanne Moore, who's passed away. She passed away about cancer, I think about 20 years ago. That was Ryan O'Neal's first wife. He was never married to Farrah Fawcett, though they were together for many, many years before she passed away on and off. And then he was married to, I don't remember her name, but he had actually a son. He had this is the book. It's called Tatum O'Neal, Paper Life. I hope you can see that. Highly recommend it. I'm going to talk more about this book. But yeah, Tatum was his first child. He had her with Joanne Moore in 1963. She's like in her 50s now, mid 50s. Same thing with Griffin. That was a son he had like a year later with Joanne Moore also. And then his second wife, I forget her name, but he had a son named Patrick with her. And then even though he's never married to Farrah, in 1985 he had a son, Redmond, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. Redmond, I'm pretty sure he's been out of jail for years and drug charges, other charges, but he recently, I think he had some like attempted murder charges. He was robbing, I think, convenience stores and actually assaulting people. I think he actually stabbed people. So he's probably going to be going to prison for many, many years. The book is basically Tatum O'Neal talking about her whole life. She mainly talks about her childhood growing up, an abusive childhood, with her fight. It was, her mother, it seemed like her mother wasn't really abusive to her, but her mother is kind of considered abuse. It's not like her mother never put her hands on her, but she was a drug addict. She was an alcoholic. She did neglect her, and Ryan O'Neal actually got custody of. It's funny, the first time he took her to court, he lost. The judge said, no, give her another chance. And I guess the second try, he did get custody of Tatum and Griffin, the 2 kids he had with Joanne Moore. But I guess the judge thought that like Ryan's home would be a better environment, but it sounded like it was actually worse. And, just as some examples, he basically forced Tatum O'Neal into Hollywood, into a movie. She was in a movie back in 1973, which is called Paper Moon, and she got an Academy Award for that. It was like her first movie, and I've never seen it, but supposedly she was amazing in it. Like she wasn't, it was her first movie. She didn't really, I guess she was just a natural born actress, and Ryan O'Neal supposedly her dad got jealous of her because she got the Academy Award at like 8, 9, 10 years of age, and he didn't. He was jealous of her for that. Supposedly, she doesn't really remember, but she thinks I guess it was so traumatic that she said she probably blocked it out of her mind. I know they were in separate, I think they were in separate countries. Ryan O'Neal might have been out of the country at the time, or Tatum might have been out of the country, but I guess she called Ryan up and she was so excited, like, Daddy, I won the Academy Award for Paper Moon. And he said, so what? Hung up the phone on her. And supposedly he slugged her too, hit her in the face. Now she says she's not exactly, I believe it happened after reading most of this book and hearing, Griffin talk about, his childhood, he was talking about how he was abused growing up. There was a movie that they were going to see, I guess it was a long movie, and Ryan O'Neal made his son Griffin try cocaine at 11 years of age. He said, "Oh, this is gonna be a long movie. Here, take this. This will help you relax. This will help you like stay awake throughout the movie." And yeah, Tatum, like she was like molested by Ryan O'Neal's friends. He kicked her out of hotel rooms while he was having sex with other women. And I think when this Academy Award thing, she just said that she's pretty sure, I believe it, she said she's pretty sure that he hit her with a closed fist or an open fist. But she said that that's one of the things that was probably so traumatic that even at a young age, she tried to block out of her mind. And I forget what the circumstances were, but it was published, I guess, when Griffin was 16, Ryan punched him in the mouth, knocked a couple of his teeth out. Yeah, I mean, Tatum, she got molested by Ryan's friends. I guess she got raped when she was like 12 or 13 years of age. I guess there was some guy that was, I think it was his motive to begin with, was like kind of acting like he was trying to be a support system and basically forced his way onto her. And it's funny, all this, and then when they were young teenagers, I think Tatum was like, when he met Farrah Fawcett, he moved into Farrah's home, and she lived in a beach house, like a mansion, practically. But for some reason, I kind of, despise Farrah too. She seemed like a sweetheart, but the fact that she allowed Ryan to be treating her kids like that's just bullshit. That they were living by themselves, forced to fend by themselves. I think Tatum was like 14 or 15, and Griffin was like 13 or 14. And, Ryan claims that, it just sounded like he met Farrah. He was like so infatuated by her that he just forgot about his kids. And he claimed that, Tatum was jealous, which she might have been in a way. I know that's a case with a lot of kids when their parents get divorced and then their parents start dating other people. They get jealous about that, having, some stranger in the home. But basically this book, Tatum, she talks about, also she was married to that famous tennis player, John McEnroe, and it sounds like John McEnroe was abusive to her as well. They had kids. I don't know how Tatum did it, but I mean, she had two kids and two babies. I guess she had a baby in 1987, her first son, Kevin, and she had another baby in 1987 or 88. And John McEnroe, I guess he was older, and I guess his, career, he was ranked the number one tennis player in 84, 85, won several tournaments. But I guess once he met Tatum and had kids, it's even though he was still traveling, doing these tours, his tennis career started to decline, and he blamed Tatum for it. He blamed the kids for it. When she announced that she was pregnant with their second child, he said something like, "Oh, well, there goes 1987, there goes 1988. I'm like, wow, that's a great thing to say. And, he put, I think I do believe that he put his hands on her when she was pregnant at one point. I think he shoved her, and Ryan O'Neal also shoved her. They got an argument about something, and she was pregnant with her first child, and he shoved her. And his defense is, "Oh, well, you didn't lose the baby, did you?" He doesn't apologize for it at all. And, she tried to reconcile, I guess, in 1986, she just had enough. She didn't want to have anything to do with Ryan anymore. I guess they got into some argument at, I guess they were visiting, John McEnroe's parents, and they were playing racquetball or tennis or something like that. And I guess Patrick, the third child that Ryan had, accidentally hit Ryan in the head with a tennis ball or handball or something like that, where they were playing racquetball, and I think it was tennis ball, and he got pissed, and he's chasing after Patrick, and I think he hit Patrick, and then, Tatum just said, "That's it, I don't want anything more to do with you," and she got married to John McEnroe not too long after. And because of all this shit that was going on, I guess Ryan, and he's still pissed off to this day about it, "Oh, what an insult." But I guess Tatum didn't invite Ryan, didn't invite her mother, the parents, nobody. I think Joanne Moore, I think she wasn't well enough to attend the wedding. She was still battling drug and alcohol problems. I think Griffin might have been in rehab. He's been in and out of rehab for years. And she didn't invite, I guess they split apart for over 20 years. And I guess they tried to I guess they reconciled They hadn't seen each other for like 20 years, and it's very funny. Ryan denies it, but I believe it's true too. Well, I guess Tatum had sunglasses on and she was crying. And yeah, Ryan, he didn't even invite. Griffin was not allowed. I guess they had a falling out in 2007, a big argument. They haven't spoken to each other since. And Griffin was not even allowed. I guess he talked to Farrah Fawcett over the phone when she was dying of cancer, when she was in hospice, but she was in the hospital. But I guess like Griffin wasn't even allowed to attend Farrah Fawcett's funeral. And he just said that, I said goodbye to her, in my heart, the higher the clouds, the higher power that I believe in. And he's like, I did everything that I could to be in her life. He said, he would text her, and so they had a relationship through text messaging. He'd say, like, Farrah, I love you, and these are my kids. He'd show her pictures of his kids. And what else happened? Oh yeah, that was the thing that really speaks volumes, is when Farrah Fawcett passed away. Of course, Ryan doesn't need the money. Doesn't sound like it. But he would making inappropriate jokes. When she was dying of cancer, and supposedly, like they were together from 1979 until 1997 or 98. I guess Farrah was away on vacation, and she tried to surprise Ryan. I guess on Valentine's Day, she wanted to surprise him, come home early, and she walked in on Ryan, and he was in the bed with another woman. And I guess he kind of funny in a way. He stood up, tried to put it like that, makes it, like that really hides it. Like it takes much imagination to know what was going on. But I guess he tried to slip his jeans on. He fell over. He put both of his legs into the same hole and fell over. And I guess she was like an actress. Her name was Leslie or something like that. Not very well known. Ryan made some comments about her. I guess she was a lot younger. And he said, like, oh yeah, like she felt more like a daughter to me than a lover or something like that. That's kind of creepy in a way. And then he got back together with Farrah when she was sick. And supposedly, I thought he really loved her, but supposedly he was just trying to get back with her to get in her will, but she didn't leave him a dime. I guess she left all of her money to their son Redmond, which didn't really do him any good because he's a drug addict and he's been in a jail prison for years. That's not going to do him any good. He's probably just using that money for more drugs. But yeah, the fact that she didn't leave a dime to Ryan, that definitely speaks volumes. But getting back, I got off track here, but getting back to what I was saying, they hadn't seen each other over 20 years. And I guess they tried to, Tatum tried to reconcile with Ryan. I guess they had just finished putting the casket into the hearse. Obviously, Ryan was a pallbearer. And I guess right after the casket was put in the hearse, they were about ready to head to the cemetery, and Tatum ran up to him and hugged him and kissed him, and he said that he thought that originally he admitted to it, now he denies it. I don't know if he was drunk or under the influence of drugs or something, I wouldn't be surprised. But he said he thought that some hot Swedish blonde girl was hitting on him, and he's like, hey, you have a drink on you? Do you have a car? And she's like, Dad, what the hell are you doing? It's me, Tatum. He said that he didn't recognize her because I guess he hadn't seen her for so long, and she had sunglasses on. But yeah, I definitely recommend, I'm not very much a reader, but I definitely recommend reading that book. It's just amazing. And it seems like Ryan, he accuses Tatum. I guess she kind of had a falling out with her life too. She got into drugs. She lost custody of her kids. Her career went down, downhill. I think she occasionally still makes appearances. I know I did see her recently on an episode of CSI or Criminal Minds or something like that. So, her career hasn't gone downhill 100%, but she's definitely not where she was. And I guess when Farrah, because Ryan O'Neal's been battling leukemia for years, but he's doing okay. He's on taking Gleevec, it's like he's in remission. He's been battling leukemia since the 60s, but it's uncontrolled. It's under control. But I guess, yeah, when, Farrah, they had I think in 2003 or something like that, when she announced, or whatever year it was, I think it was in the early or mid 2000s, when she announced that she had anal cancer. And Ryan got pissed at her. He was basically jealous of her because she had cancer. Because the attention all of a sudden wasn't on Ryan. It had to be diverted towards Farrah. And he didn't like that. I guess Griffin said that Ryan stood up and he said, no, I'm dying. You're not dying. I'm dying. And Griffin was like, well, Dad, that's, kind of selfish thing to say because you're in remission. He's like, you take Gleevec. He's like, you've been, in remission. You've been doing fine for like 10 years now. It sounds like, Farrah's, a lot worse off. Like this could be terminal, which obviously it did turn out to be terminal. I guess she was really positive about it. And I'm going to wrap this up here real quickly, but yeah, it sounds like Ryan, he had drug problems. His first wife had drug problems, alcohol problems. Ryan also had alcohol problems. He provided the kids with drugs and alcohol. I'm not sure about his second wife, but yeah, he blames his kids. He actually admitted at one point that, I don't think I was meant to be a father. He's like, just look at my work. They're all alcoholics, they're drug addicts, they're all in jail or should be, the ones that aren't should be. Patrick, I think, is the only one that never got into drugs or alcohol, never got in trouble with the law. He's actually like a sports broadcaster, and he said something like, I guess they recently reconnected. I guess they're doing okay now, but Patrick says, well, I think, Redmond was like the only kid that Ryan had a relationship with, but now Redmond is in prison or jail, so now it's like Ryan, he doesn't have Farrah anymore. Who's he going to cry to? And Patrick did admit, I guess they reconciled, but Patrick did admit, he's like, oh yeah, he's like, Ryan only comes around when he really needs me. But yeah, years ago he did say, oh yeah, Patrick, he's got a good head on his shoulders, he's got a career, but he said he's just not a likable person. And I guess after Farrah was gone, they tried, him and Ryan and Tatum tried to reconcile their relationship, but it didn't work. They actually had a reality show. It was kind of like keeping up. I think it was like 10 episodes, just like one season, but it just doesn't, they were going to therapy, but it just didn't sound like Ryan wanted to put in any effort. Like he didn't even want to go to see a psychiatrist or a therapist, psychologist or whatever. He said, oh yeah, you can go, Tatum, just bring me in for results, and he did go to one session. I think it was supposed to be their last session, but Ryan was still like being a bitch, shouting at her. There was one point they went out to a restaurant for Tatum's birthday, and he's yelling at her on her birthday. Walked out of the restaurant. It's like you such a fucking ass. How you could treat your kids like that? And I think he's mainly. It didn't really sound like he put in any effort. That he was still holding grudges from the past. He actually blames his kids for Farrah getting cancer. He's like, oh, I don't know for sure. We don't really know what causes cancer, but I think it's highly possible. And he's like, I think even on Piers Morgan, he was on Piers Morgan years ago for like an hour giving an interview. You can find that. Yeah, that's still up, I believe. And even Piers Morgan says, Ryan, that sounds kind of harsh to say. It must hurt your kids to say that. And he's like, well, I know it's harsh. I know it's probably hurtful, but he's like, I think it's possible. And he's like, I think my kids know it too. Because he said, Farrah, she believed in good health. She didn't do drugs. He said she wouldn't even drink. She believed in, exercising. She wouldn't even drink a Diet Coke. So yeah, he was basically blaming his kids for their, he was, I think, contributed to their drug and alcohol problems. They were abused. He exposed them to drugs and alcohol. And then he also, he blamed his kids for Farrah getting cancer. So, yeah, I think that wraps up everything I have to say about that book and all the major points I wanted to cover about the O'Neals. Really disappointing. I really admired Farrah Fawcett, Ryan O'Neal back in the day. It sounds like he was abusive to Farrah Fawcett too, because I guess at one point in the book, he was mad at Tatum about something, and he said, let me show you what happens to bad girls. I don't know, it didn't go into details in the book of what he did to Farrah, but he told Farrah, he was like shouting at her, like, lift up your shirt, and I guess she lifted up her shirt and exposed her belly, and I guess she had, I don't know if he slashed her or whatnot, but I guess she had like a long white scar on her abdomen, her belly, so, yeah, I think Farrah did admit back when they first broke up, back in 97 or 98, that he was abusive. She said, oh yeah, he was a bully, but she said, I stood up to him. I was never afraid of him. I didn't take any shit. But yeah, I really was in admiration. I really lost respect for Ryan O'Neal. I really admired him as a child. I admired Farrah, and I actually lost a little bit of respect for Farrah too, the fact that she knew that those kids are left behind to fend for themselves. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Comment, like, share, subscribe, and I will see you all real soon with another video. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.